Hey guys, it's Kelly here. I am so excited to see you. I'm going to get us all set up and make sure that you can see the beautiful Jennifer Earnest as well. So Jen is joining, and just give me 1 second here, Jen, while I get us all set up so that everyone can see you. Oh, yay. Okay, so I have us in a couple different places, and let me make sure we can hear you as well. So Jen, say hi.
Hi.
Yay, okay. There's always some kind of technology that doesn't work, but it looks like we're doing well today. I know we will have lots of people joining us as we are speaking, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce you, but I also wanted to let everybody know that Zoom has had some trouble over the last week or so. So we've had a couple different times when something just drops out. So if that happens, Jen, and if that happens, everybody, don't worry, just stay right where you are and we'll come right back in together. So if you are, especially if you're watching this on Facebook, sometimes that connection goes away, and just know that we will get right back up and just stay where you are. We'll be right back.
Okay.
So, all right, so let me make sure everyone can see us in both places. We are looking good. And I have my phone up here. I have two screens. So hopefully we'll be able to get everybody that is looking with questions and wants to hear your story as well, Jen. So first of all, I want to welcome everybody to the second in our series of Silver Lining Stories. This is an ongoing series now that we're going to be doing, featuring women who are from all different backgrounds, all different projects, businesses, experiences, careers in this moment, who are dealing with the global pandemic, social distancing, the effect on their business, or whatever your plans were for the next 6 months, right? And what I hope to do is bring you stories from women who are really doing a phenomenal job of making the absolute best out of this situation. And that is not to say that we are not all dealing with things, right? So it's not to say everything is easy and let's hear a story of somebody who just does everything perfectly every time. We are inviting women like Jen to come on and share the truth behind their story and how they have been able to make the most of this experience. So let me go ahead and introduce our interview guest today. I'm so pleased to have her here, Jennifer Earnest from Chef's Garden Catering. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for asking me. I can't tell you, it was a highlight of my week when you reached out to me last week. Because like you say, we're all doing the best we can to make it through, but it's hard, and staying positive is hard. And so these moments of encouragement where people say that you're uplifting or inspiring them are kind of the silver linings for me that help keep me going through this time.
Yeah, it's funny because I think we had a little chat last week, and I've heard some people say, oh gosh, focusing on all the positives or trying to act like you can do it all in this time is crazy, or is stressful, or whatever version of that we all have. But it's not really about that. It's about saying we all have something going on and we all need to make the best of it in whatever way we can. And especially today, we're going to focus on business owners, right? So people who are running a business and trying to figure out, how do I shift and adapt and make the most of this, and maybe even learn something new and turn something that we didn't even know was possible into an opportunity. So you are the perfect person to talk us through that, because your business is 100% a hands-on, in-person, lots of people have to be together in a room business. So can you tell us a little of your story, and a little bit for those, some of you have probably eaten beautiful food and experienced that, but if they haven't, can you tell us about your business as well?
Yeah. So the Chef's Garden Catering Events is a full-service off-premise catering and event company. And we manage the cafe inside the Cumberland Museum. So until March, it was either 7th or 14th, the weeks kind of run together, my entire business was based on people gathering. And the best parts of my business were based on large groups of people gathering. Those were the things that we really went for. And so when all of this started to happen, we had to kind of shift pretty quickly. And what I would like to say is, when all of this happened, we're a family-owned business. So I own this business with my mom and my husband. And catering is a hard business. And the week before this happened, we just hired an amazing executive sous chef that was going to take some work off of my husband. He is still on board, and he's been a real blessing. And then we also, April 1st, had a new catering salesperson coming on. So we really, for the first time in a long time, felt fully staffed and like we were going to take a deep breath and be able to sort of enjoy some of the hard work that we'd put into Chef's Garden. So when all this happened, there's a couple things that we had to do in shifting our mind, because what sort of happened is, oh my gosh, is our business going to be ruined by this? Like, what does this mean? Like, our best spring that we've had to date is now our worst spring that we've had to date. If you're measuring from the event side, I'm not saying that it's turned out to be the worst spring. There's lots of highlights that have come from this. But also, like, we had to get back in the hustle of things to kind of figure out how to pivot. And we had to shift our mindset. Instead of saying what wasn't working, we had to say what can work. How can we continue to serve people in this time? And really, it comes back to shifting our perspective from what we had. And so we actually had this incredible team of people that could help us pivot. You know, if it were just Jamie, my mom, and me, I know we would not have had the ability to pivot as well and as strongly as we have. So we had this team that made these things happen. And, you know, we've also always wanted to do some of these things. You know, it's funny, the things that you pray and put out into the universe, oftentimes the universe gives them back to you. You know, you're like, I didn't mean I wanted this to happen in the middle of a pandemic.
In a way you didn't anticipate or desire in any way.
Right. But it's, you know, it'd been on my heart that I wanted to broaden our community. You know, events have somewhat of a high price tag of entry. You know, like, you have to be willing with, typically in doing an event with us, that, you know, our smallest event for the most part, maybe we do some bridal showers for 25, but most of our events are weddings and events that are 100 plus people. And so that's expensive. And we've been trying to figure out, how do we broaden our audience so that more people know us and so that we can connect with more people. And that's something that has been able to happen in this time. So to your point, this time is not what we wanted, but there have been some things that have come out of it for us. And I could feel myself the weekend that this was all happening. And it happened for us on the early side, because being inside the Cummer, which is a cultural institution, they take a lot of responsibility for making sure that they're looking out for the public interest. So they were one of the first institutions to close. And that's when, I think the week prior on Wednesday, somebody from our team had said to me in a meeting, hey, so a couple of people are calling and wanting to know what we're going to do with COVID. And I was like, what do you mean what we're going to do with COVID? It's not even affecting us. And so within a 7-day period, our business, like as we knew it, was shut down. And so we spent the weekend at home. It was quiet. And I kind of realized that I had to figure out a way to work through this, to keep myself busy and to keep my energy in the right place.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so first of all, I love what you're sharing, and I think that's what most people experienced, right? So, there's something going on. I'm kind of vaguely aware of it. Maybe I follow the news, and I'm concerned about people far away. Right. And then all of a sudden, it was in our faces and impacting our day-to-day experiences. Mm-hmm. So, you honestly, and the reason I reached out to you and said, can you come on really soon, is because you are the person, really, more than anyone else I've seen as a business owner. I've seen a lot of amazing people now, and we'll have some really incredible people on, but you're the person who shifted the fastest that I've seen, who was immediately like, okay, this isn't happening, so now this is happening. Right. And did a phenomenal job of doing that. And I know you have experience with having to shift and adapt. So it's not necessarily that, you know, all of a sudden one day your mindset shifted. You've experienced that and been through it before.
Yeah. So, you know, about a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago, maybe at this point, we owned the Candy Apple Cafe and Cocktails for quite a few years. It was something that I loved. And based on circumstances, we had to make the decision to close. And it was at that time that it really felt like a divorce for me. And a lot for me to go through. And I decided at that time that I could either get myself buried in what wasn't working for me, or I could put my energy into becoming a stronger person, becoming a stronger business owner, and taking what Chef's Garden is and really taking it to the next level. And so I've spent time over the last 2 years doing things that are good for me physically, doing things that are good for me emotionally, doing things that are good for us from a business standpoint, that I do think prepared me you can't prepare for this moment, but it equipped me with some tools that has helped me at this time. So as opposed to saying, I feel like the me 2 years ago, when I talk third person, that Jen probably would have been paralyzed by fear, and I would have stayed in that for a while. And I've learned that the best thing that I can do is to try something. And so what, like, that's the interesting thing when COVID happened. So what if it failed? You know what I mean? What if my best efforts didn't work? It was better than doing nothing. And that's kind of what I think for people is like, give it a shot. Like, it also released me of this piece that and I feel like so many of us as women and business owners think, what is somebody going to think? Like I was sharing with you when we talked, I've never been super verbal, a big sharer on Facebook and social. And I've started this gratitude challenge because I find that when people do share their story, it's what's helped me over the last 2 years to become a stronger version of myself. And it's what's helped me make this shift that I made. And the shift, you know, I also think when we're not paralyzed by fear, that's where our creative juices come in. That's where the ideas come from. When we're afraid and we're working from a place of like, what isn't going to work, ideas aren't coming to us. So I spent a couple days saying, take a deep breath. Luckily it was beautiful weather. I was able to enjoy some sunshine, which is a blessing that we've all had in Florida, and dealing with this. And then we decided that Monday we're going to wake up and get a plan. You know, like we're going to say, like, here's a plan. My husband was like, I think we should do meal delivery. Gas is low and we've got a lot of people that can drive and vehicles. And I had seen some friends that were talking about like virtual cocktail hours just with friends. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is how we do these cooking classes. We just virtually connect with people. And it really happened that quickly. We had a conversation on Monday with our catering director, our general manager, my husband and myself, and we put some menu ideas together. Our GM is a rock star, and he's like, I'm gonna change our site and add an e-commerce piece to it. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's give it a try. And then, so that went live on Monday. We got our first order, which was amazing. I actually had a friend calling saying, are y'all gonna do meal delivery? And I was like, I'm so glad you're asking. This means what we're doing might work. And then the next morning on Tuesday, I texted a group of friends that some were close with, but all that I respected. And I said, we want to try this out. Will y'all jump on a Zoom call with us? We delivered some ingredients, we put it together, and we just went for it. You know, like we're so many times in business, you have time it's a luxury and it's also can hold us back, you know, because we're trying so hard to make something perfect. And sometimes progress is better than perfection, like just getting something going. And so that's why things happen so fast. We knew that time mattered if we wanted to kind of get our product out there. And I didn't.
Okay, so
one last thing, I didn't think COVID was going on for this long. That's the other reason why we shifted so hard, is we thought we were like looking at like 2 or 3 weeks of something. You know, we didn't understand the timing. So yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think we're all in the same boat, right? We've all had that same kind of experience. And I love, you talked about a few things there that I think would be fantastic to touch on.
Okay.
One is time. So understanding the urgency to make a shift, right? But also the willingness to try something and not be afraid to fail at it, and to know that maybe failing at one thing in this moment, first of all, you can learn something from that. And secondly, it's an opportunity, I think, certainly from your example, to do something that you maybe never even expected to be successful. And it might be a new opportunity. I mean, as I'm looking at you from an outside perspective, I think, wow, there's not only now you have an incredible catering business and all of these other things that you can choose to continue or choose not to continue in the future.
Which I'm hoping we'll choose to continue. I really think that they will be our silver linings, you know, like of other revenue streams that we have as a business that make us a little bit more diversified, allow us to have a bigger community, more other things we want. But that failure piece is a huge thing. And so I spent my life being afraid to fail, like wanting to just perfect things, from like making straight A's in high school, which, you know, like to being in a marriage that wasn't working, that I stayed in so long, to when that marriage ended, realizing how much stronger I came out of it. And then Candy Apple is like my other big example. Like I actually came away from that experience a better person, a better leader. And, you know, I'm sure people passed judgment when it happened. And I'm sure people have their own idea of what happened because they never really went into that story. But the thing is that I really think it doesn't really matter what everybody else thinks, because we are only responsible for the life that we're living, and that we're happy with it. And so it's sort of, failure can be freeing. I mean, I really think that when you overcome it, like failure sucks. Like, I'm not going to say that like, go out there and just try to fail at something. I'm saying that once you move through it, it is very freeing. And you realize that your life doesn't end because you failed at something or because it didn't work. You just learn a new way of doing it.
Yes, I love that. And I shared with you the other day, and I've shared with many people in our community, that I think for me, the similar story, as much as I think we both have had moments in this experience where we've gone, oh, and I shared one with our email audience yesterday. For me, I had this day last week where I was like, whoa,
Yes.
but I also think that having had failures over the last 5 years of growing a business, it's very different from yours, but having had those experiences and having had to overcome them, right? Having the experience of going, okay, well, now what are we going to do differently? And I think that does allow a little bit more freedom and a little bit of the ability to shift. But there are many people that are probably watching this now or will watch this later or listen to the podcast who will be saying, yeah, great, but I just started a business, or I'm a year in and I'm not making money yet. I know I have people that I've spoken to in our community who say, I have a fully functioning business, but I don't pay myself now, so I can't even apply for a PPP loan, right? So I think we're all in different situations in this same bigger boat. And so, I would love maybe if you can share a little bit of what your insights would be for people who maybe don't have a big business at this point. But we both have been there when you're not, things are not as rosy as they could be, and you have to make a decision in your mind, right, and in your whole being about how you to move forward.
So, all of our businesses are different, and the stages of our business are different. I think I have 3 things that would maybe apply to everybody. One is to lean in. The only reason that I'm still here and that my business is still here is not because there were actually times in starting it that our CPA said, I think you should maybe do something different. Like there are times where it didn't make sense, but I believed it in my heart that it was right and we were going to figure it out. So dig your heels in and I mean, do a self-evaluation, but like we gave ourselves a time frame. We're like, okay, we're going to get it right. And if we can get it right by this time, we're going to keep going. And we did. So perseverance, I think, is key. The other thing is perspective. Believe that you can get through this. If you don't believe it in your bones and in your heart, then you're not going to get through it in the same way. So you really have to believe it. And believing it means you might seem a little crazy to other people. But when all of this happened, I knew we were going to come out of it in some way stronger as a company. And I didn't know how, I don't know that means we're coming out of it stronger financially in the short term specifically, but we are going to come out stronger from a team, because our team has seen me step up and lead. They've seen my husband step up and do that. And I've seen our team step up and make it happen. And so like, there is a value that I think we all see in each other with that. And there's it's a stronger sense of team that comes from it. And then the third thing is, I was saying perspective, perseverance, and then, the other piece is just, I think, being willing to try with something, you know what I mean? Like being willing to kind of see how it's going to go. When we kind of talk about failure, there's so many things that you don't do because you're playing it safe. So at this point, just try things and reach out to your community and ask how you can do things, and don't be afraid to ask those questions, because there are resources out there. Like the PPP is the thing that we all kind of talk about and know, but like there are resources. And when we're willing to ask for help, it's amazing how help shows up for us. So if you are struggling for how to keep your business going, like instead of acting like you've got it all together and that you're okay, it's okay to be vulnerable in those places. And you'd be surprised. There is strength in vulnerability. And I really had a hard time with that for a very long time, of saying what I needed. But in this time, had I not said I need people to show up for us, I need, like y'all to give us a try, then we wouldn't have the success we had to this point.
Yeah, well, I love that. And I love the perspective about vulnerability, because I think that you just touched on it, right? So none of us want to admit that something might be difficult, and none of us want to say, I need you to actually help me with this.
Right.
And so this is a tough time for us to be honest, right? And yet that honesty is really powerful.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Well, you know, and I think that's the thing, like, as you are saying that, that's where I've learned from watching other people share their stories and their vulnerabilities on social. That's what's helped me get through it, is realizing that we're all feeling so many of the same feelings at the same time. So like kind of touching on this like gratitude piece versus this fear piece. It's not that in any given day we're not feeling both. We're just choosing which emotion we're going to let win, you know, like for us and for me. Yes, you got to feel those feelings. Like sometimes we feel scared, sometimes we feel unsure. But we decide that like trust and gratitude is going to win out. So that's what I think matters to me. And I think we might have just gotten stuck. Okay, great. Can y'all, so since I don't see Kelly on here for the moment, does anybody have a question for me to kind of keep the conversation going? In the chat? So I know somebody just asked me how I would handle going forward. And for me, I think as far as going forward, you know, I'm getting asked that question a lot with the things that we're doing. Like, are we going to continue on these things? Are we not? And my hope is that we do find a way. Like, I love this meal delivery. I love the fact that we're being able to do these things. And I want to find ways within our community that we're able to do that. We're doing these virtual cooking classes, which I love. And I'm trying to figure out how we can even grow that side so that we can connect with a broader audience. And I think the key is that you take some of the ideas that you have and you continually find ways that you're going to build upon those. So that's what we're working to do on our side. Somebody else is asking who is my support group and how did I find that support group? You know, I think this is such a critical question. And my support group is varied. You know, I'm lucky to have family that's supporting me, that have called me and just been my cheerleaders. And it almost chokes me up because that is, you know, having cheerleaders is so important and finding a friend group. And I have friends that I have actually, some new friends that I've reached out to and asked for help during this time. So I've always had a good group of friends, but I haven't necessarily had a great big group of professional support. And in this time when I was trying to figure out these virtual cooking classes, I reached out to some friends that I had on social that I respected the business that they'd built. So there's Alicia Bauman, who works for City Year, and there's my friend Paulina Perez, who has Makeup by Paulina. And I went ahead and reached out to them, and they have been invaluable as far as helping me figure out some of the digital sides, also just being encouraging for me. My aunt is another person like that, who has really just been like, I feel like my greatest cheerleader. And then my husband, I'm lucky to be in business with somebody who we looked at each other together and just said, we're gonna just figure out what we do. And I think my best advice is that if you don't have that group, look for it, ask people. And if you have people in your life that aren't those people, because I've had those people in my life too, get them out of your life. Put those boundaries up so that you're not spending time with people who aren't encouraging you, who aren't believing in you, because we're only as strong as the people we surround ourselves with. And I think I see Kelly coming back on my screen.
Yay! Okay, hooray! I'm back. I'm so sorry about that, guys. The whole thing just shut off as I was twisting.
You're going to be babbling. So
in the beginning that this keeps happening. I don't know. That wasn't Zoom, so I don't know what it was, but I appreciate your patience. And I'm guessing you had some good wisdom while I was gone.
I hope so. I don't think anybody expected to use internet as much as we are using it right now. So I think we're just having trouble keeping up.
Well, the funny thing is, we've even had some live sessions where it's live, but then people can't get in or they can't see it on Facebook. And I've had people emailing me saying, like, I can't get access to this or I can't do that. And I'm like, I have no idea because it seems like it's live for us. So it's, it is what it is. And I appreciate all of you and your patience. Okay, so we're back, and I want to make sure, I'm going to make sure that we're up again in our Facebook group too, because we have people watching in there as well. Mm-hmm. But I want to invite everybody who's watching to ask if you have questions that you want to ask Jen and I, and we're going to have a little conversation about how to make the most of your business right now. So actually, Jen, while I get our questions from our different, because we have them in a few different places, can I ask you to share what are your kind of words of wisdom for women watching this now who are running a business in many different stages and just trying to figure out, where do I go next?
So I think my one is believe in yourself. I mean, I know that sounds so trite, maybe, and we hear it all the time, but like if we don't believe in ourselves and our own ability, then nobody else is. And, we put ourselves out there and we figure out how to make it happen. And you figured out all these other things in your life, you're going to figure this piece out too. So believe in yourself. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I know I've said that, but that is so critical. And this piece is to say, to be able to say what your weaknesses are and ask somebody to help you with those. Somebody had asked me actually about my support group. And one thing that I did not mention is that I also have this amazing therapist that I started seeing when I went through my divorce, which was back in 2012. And I don't see her all the time, but I do check-ins with her like every couple of months. And investing in yourself, even when you don't need something at the moment, like you're not in crisis mode, choosing to invest in yourself and work through some things, I think is so critical. Like we tend to give ourselves the attention when we've totally zapped ourselves out. And it's like, oh, wow, I need to take some time. I need to take care of myself. But learning to do that earlier, I think is really important. One thing that I'm really working on is that I think I'm a great worker, but learning to relax is a very hard thing for me. And every time that I build those boundaries in, I see the fruits of my efforts so much, like they come out so much faster. Like I get such a better return on my investment. So I'm learning how to do that. Remembering that, this moment will not last. So don't allow yourself to stay grounded in fear. Feel it, but don't allow that to be your final moment. I like to go back and think, this might sound funny, but I like to go back and think about the hardest and worst things that I've gone through. And then I see that I'm here. So those moments did help define me, but they did not define me in the way that I thought they were at the moment that they were happening. They've actually become my greatest strengths because of that. So those are some of my
I love that. So, and speaking of mindset, because I think that is where we all need to start from right now, right? So what is the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome in this period?
I think for any mompreneur, it's learning to work from home. It's learning not to shut it off. I used to go into work and my son went to school, and I then would come home and I would do family time and, things like that would happen. And now it's happening all the time. And to the same thing of feeling like we did a good pivot. And then being like, okay, what's next? Instead of learning to enjoy the fact that we have a couple things that are working for us, we're doing some things that we're actually enjoying, with this connection. So learning to take a breath in the middle of all of this, I think is so critical. So in all honesty, when I say some moments are winning, some moments are not, and we choose to let the winning moments define us. Last week was one of those weeks where I just, your Target story was my life. You know what I mean? I felt like my battery was always about to die, on my phone. And I'm I have a charger right next to my bed and, everywhere I go. And that was a metaphor for how I felt on the inside. So I kind of powered through that week. And then I really worked to take some time and to disconnect and realize that there are some things that needed my attention that maybe weren't going to get my attention right now. Because if I didn't give my attention to myself and to my family, I was going to go into this week feeling just as half charged.
Mm.
And so, you know, I think that is, the more we go on this journey to become the version of ourselves that we want, it's not that we don't have those moments, because we do have those moments. We're all human and we're all trying to figure this out. The difference is that we start to feel those things, and those feelings, instead of feeling normal, like instead of, you know, I used to like pride myself on being able to like go on no sleep, you know, like hustle through it and put on a smile. I thought that was actually a good thing. And now I've learned that like I really want to genuinely be smiling, you know, and grateful for the things I have. So when I start to feel that way, it is that piece where I'm like, I got to take a deep breath. I got to create some time, and not to let that, like, you're not going to get everything done on your to-do list, because it's really hard to parent, to work, to take care of yourself, to all of these things, and get everything done. And so give yourself some grace as much as you possibly can. We're all feeling the same thing. So know that somebody understands where you're coming from, and just, I mean, we had this conversation. We had a couple days of trying to connect.
I know. I was so happy to finally connect with you, because we said, oh, we're going to do this. And then it took us, I don't know, 7 phone calls back and forth, because in the midst of not being able to go anywhere, it seems like we're all busier than we normally are.
Yes. Well, Kelly sent me this text and it was, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. This was my day. Like, can we connect a different time? And my response was, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that you're saying this. So I think that the more that we can be honest with each other with where we are, like sometimes we're all trying to keep up for the next person. And, you know, like if we can kind of see where we are, we might give everybody a break a little bit in the process.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and I love, you know, you talked about giving yourself grace. And I every conversation I have in about virtually anything, that is a point that I like to make, because I think that we, especially, you said it, as business owners, for every single business owner who's watching, as moms, as spouses, as family members, in this time where we have to also take on other people's emotional journeys and be there and be present for them, and have our own emotional and practical journeys, right? I think really highlighting and touching on that experience of giving yourself grace is so powerful. So I want to make sure that we touch a little bit on just specific online business strategies. And for those of you who are watching this who are like, this sounds great, I'm inspired, but I have no idea what to do in my specific business, you can ask us some questions right now, but also make sure you join me tomorrow, where we're going to talk real strategy and kind of how to put your business into buckets, and grow your business online right now, right? So, you know, and Jen, you have done such a phenomenal job of taking something that is such an in-person experience and turn that into an online shift, right? And it doesn't take away from your future opportunity, but it gives you something incredible that's new.
Well, and I never would have thought that I had a product to sell. You know what I mean? Like I always was like, I want to come up with a product like that, and having a product, you know, when you talk about business and online, it makes so much sense. And so like, just for anybody that's feeling that way, like that they don't have a way and that they don't know, you know, one thing that kind of helps me is give yourself, like when your mind is spinning so much, it's really hard to like come up with something. So like I think there is some beauty in like knowing that you want to do something and allowing something to kind of sit in the back of your mind. The good ideas will come up, and they will come, you know, like if you can not worry them away. You know, it is so easy to worry away good ideas. So if you can give yourself a little bit of space, then you will figure out a way to pivot. I also want to speak to, if you see somebody else doing something, you know, I think as entrepreneurs and as business owners, we're always afraid of like, I don't want to copy somebody else's idea. But the thing is, there's a couple things, and I've seen a few people, and I don't know for sure if my idea is what's inspired them, or if I just think that it's my idea that's inspired them. But copying something or taking somebody's idea and working from it is actually one of the best ways of flattery. 2, you're going to figure out your way to put your mark on it. So I'm not saying copy somebody's, like in virtual learning, copy somebody's piece and just go do it and take it as your own. But I'm saying you can find ways that other people are doing something, and you can find a way to take it to the next level, or to engage with your audience. You know, like we all have different audiences that we're connecting with, and our forum, like the way that we're doing this, we have an audience that like connects with us, that they value similar things that we value. But there are other people who your audience may be different from our audience. So.
Yes. I mean, I cannot clap for you enough on that point, because I think that you are so right. And I come across that all the time where people say, well, yeah, but you can go on YouTube and learn this. But on YouTube, it's not somebody that they want to learn from. On YouTube, it's maybe not being taught in the way that people want to learn. On YouTube, it's hard to find, and it's annoying, and it's frustrating. And there are a lot of different barriers that hold people back from actually being successful. And you as an individual, and you are clearly demonstrating this, you have an audience that will connect with you at whatever you do. And whether that is, you know, teaching how to prepare meals, or whether it's teaching, we did a video a few weeks ago and somebody said they're a hairstylist. And, you know, when you first think of it, things, well, how do you do hairstyling when you're not in person? And really there's a million different ways that you can build a hairstyling business right now from home without seeing other people. If you want to know what they are, watch the video from a few weeks ago where we talk about branding. And I think that being able to open your mind to these different opportunities is really powerful.
Well, and Kelly, I think what you're speaking to there, like that comes to my mind, is that your audience trusts you. You've built this trust with them. So like, I would not, my hairstylist sent me, if anybody can tell how blonde my hair looks right now, it's because she sent me this product that I can use from home. I would not have trusted putting that product on my hair or trimming my bangs had she not kind of given me this tutorial, because
did you trim your own bangs?
I did. And I gave myself a haircut. I mean, I'm not pivoting this.
Next level. I'm very impressed.
But I trust her. You know what I mean? Like to do that. I know that she is giving me, she knows me. She knows what I can kind of handle. Where somebody on YouTube, I don't know how they doctor up these videos, like to make sure the product looks good.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's such a powerful point, right? So the idea of trust. And just to say it again, I mean, I'll do some more stuff about branding, but if you're not sure, if you're watching this now or you're watching it later and you're like, this sounds great, guys, but I don't have an audience, or I don't have the X, Y, or Z, this is the perfect time to build that, right? So this is the perfect time to refocus your business energies, but it's also a perfect time to say, people are paying attention, work on your brand right now and be present and build that trust.
Well, and can I say, like, we are a catering and event planning company. We have the cafe inside the Cummer Museum, which I love, and it is a restaurant, but essentially the cafe is an amenity to museum guests. So we did not have an audience that was looking for us to do meal delivery. You know, that would, had I given myself time to think about that, I probably would not have done what I'm doing. Luckily, I didn't pause long enough to think about that. That's what I've been doing, is building this audience at this time. And you know, when it comes to building an audience, I always am afraid that I'm going to annoy people, you know, like, or that they don't. The great thing about social is they can not follow you if they don't want to, you know, like so don't worry about like inundating people too much with your information. Like, make sure your point is out there and just go for it. I mean, again, what do you have to lose for somebody judging you when they're scrolling down their Facebook feed?
Yes. Yes. I want to talk to you every day for my own personal power buildup. Yes. I mean, I cannot argue with anything you're saying. I think it's so powerful. For those of you who are here in the chat, go ahead. If you have any specific questions, I know you might just be here to get inspired and kind of soak up that inspiration, but if you have specific business related questions, either go ahead and ask them here, or make sure you show up tomorrow at 11 o'clock. All of our things this week are at 11 a.m. We're making it really simple. So show up at 11 tomorrow, and I'll do some very specific training on how to kind of refocus your business and focus on growing online. Whether you already have an online business and you are trying to figure out, okay, how do I make sure I'm, you know, continuing to be successful, or you are like in the situation that Jen was in, where you have a fully functioning business that is bricks and mortar, or has some kind of service related element, and you're trying to figure out how to shift. And I think there are many different strategies that we can talk about tomorrow. Okay, so Jen, as we get ready to wrap up, I want to ask you about the idea that I talked about in my email yesterday, which is all about grit, right? So not just giving yourself grace, which I think is such an important point, but also, you know, kind of you kind of have to do this like physical and emotional, pulling together of all of your energies to have that grit to continue to move forward when things are hard. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think that kind of goes back. I use the word perseverance, like sticking my heels in, but it's that grit. So one thing that I've started doing, I used to be very active, and then for a long time I didn't. And about 2 years ago, I started exercising again, and really just for my mental health. But when I sometimes go on my runs and I want to give up, it's like I use this as a mental practice to be like, no, I can get through these hard times. And so the same way that you're like physically preparing for something, you're mentally preparing for the fact that you can do it. You have to remind yourself of that. When the going gets hard, you do not run away, you push through it. And I mean, I think that is, when we kind of talk about grit, somebody in the chat had mentioned we're doing these virtual cooking classes, and we've had the opportunity to team up with a national organization called Women on Course, and where the audience is all over the country and doing some virtual learning. And we've learned some things. Like, in all honesty, all of our classes have gone really well. The first one that we did for this, like my most exciting class, I didn't feel like was our best class, because we're learning shipping, and we're learning, like, should we actually be shipping, or should we be sending a list ahead of time? Like, there's so many pieces that we're learning. And that's where you don't take the things that aren't working and say, see, I told you this didn't work. You instead say, okay, what didn't work about this, and how do I change it so that it can work next time? And those, when we're tired, like right now, when we're going through these things and life feels like it's not working, life is not working in the way that we are used to it working right now. Like, I don't care how well any of us are making it or managing it. It is hard. That it's so easy when something doesn't work to kind of be like, oh, see, I told you, like, this isn't what I should be doing. And so don't let those feelings win. If you can kind of catch yourself in those thoughts, and then figure out how you reposition that thought in a way that motivates you to do something else. I think grit comes into perspective so much. If you can change the way that you see something so that it doesn't make you want to give up, that's where you kind of hold on and you say, how do I make this work?
Yeah. I mean, I so agree with you. And I think when we talk about grit, I think there's also a power in setting a goal, right? Even if that goal is completely different, it is maybe you're pulling back on your financial goal and your goal now is about your mental health, right? So, and you talked about this earlier, it might not be that we all hit our giant revenue targets for the year, but we are able to move forward, we are mentally well, and we're able to go into the next phase in an even stronger place.
Well, and that's what I said to our team. I mean, like, knowing that this was our strongest spring that we had to date. We were super excited about the spring. All of these things we're doing are awesome, but it is nearly impossible for the things we're doing right now to financially compete with what we had for spring. However, the way that I see this, what we're doing is I'm changing what I want to get out of this season. So yes, some of it is, there are some financial goals that we're going after, or things that we're trying to reach, but really, like, that's where it comes back to me building that community, building that online presence, building relevancy with people, so that, like, from a catering standpoint, oftentimes people come to us for their wedding or their anniversary, or just these like one big special events. Like, I'm catering Easter now every year. It was our best Easter we've ever had. Like, we cater a couple clients Easters. Now we have this whole delivery program. Like, those are things that come out that make sense. My husband and I my husband makes this wonderful gelato. I've always dreamed about having gelato as a product. Well, it's not in grocery stores right now, but it is being delivered to people's homes, and it's in their fridges and freezers, which is the ultimate end goal of what we want for having it in a grocery store. So there are ways to go after some goals right now, to make some things happen and to lay the groundwork for what happens. And I think for anybody that's not sure how their business can change right now, what you said is so true. We can work on our mental health and our mindset. And if we can use this time to come out of this stronger, emotionally and mentally, and not weaker, then I promise you the next season will be stronger in every measurable way because of that.
Yeah, I mean, so many golden nuggets, I think, in this conversation around not just growing your business, but also just taking care of yourself in this time, and being aware that, in order to be successful professionally, you have to make sure that you are being strategic, and being strategic not just in writing down your professional goals or your revenue goals, which are very important. So I'm not dismissing that, but also in this time, especially taking care of where you are emotionally, taking care of your family's journey, whatever that might mean to you. And then I just love, so you've done it in so many different ways. You just talked about gelato, catering, serving people at Easter, all of these different opportunities that might 4 or 5 months ago have felt like, oh, we don't have time for that, or that's a really big future dream situation. And instead of saying, okay, well, we can't do something, you've said, okay, we're going to take this opportunity to set ourselves up for the future. And I think that, you know, talking about silver linings, that is an incredible silver lining that allows you, whenever this finishes, which I think will be soon, you will come out of it with your other business still there and your future opportunities just even greater.
Yeah. No, I agree for sure. So yeah.
Well, I'm so grateful to have you on here. I hope you will join me again and we can talk about some more practical things in the future. But
I say one last thing. So
just
when it comes to putting things out there and wanting things to happen. So I went to Kelly's conference. Was it January, February?
In January, yes. Thank goodness we did. I thought about doing it in the spring.
And I was actually able to be a panelist, but the only way that I was a panelist for Kelly is I did an event with her, we catered it, and then we did strike up a nice rapport. And I texted Kelly and I said, is there any way for me to be involved in anything? And so Kelly gave me a sweet spot on a panel. But then it's always been a dream of mine, like this is another piece, is to be able to share my story to inspire other business owners, mompreneurs to do these things. So really, like last week when you reached out and said, I'd love to interview for you for this Silver Linings, this is again like a goal, a dream that I've had that is coming through. And, you know, I just encourage everybody to trust that things are going to work out, to ask, had I not asked you, had I not put myself out there, we never would have had this connection, which would have led to this. And that was when I emailed you that day saying, is there anything, you know, I was like, you always need to be asked for something, not to ask for it. And that was a shift for me, kind of like, I just want to share with people that I'm using some of the same things that I'm saying and I'm seeing how it works. And I hope that you'll do the same thing, to reach out to your community, ask how they can support you, and just believe in yourself and that you're going to make it through this time.
Yeah, I mean, and thank you for sharing that story, because I think that, you know, that's such a perfect example of when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to have her on a panel, right? But I might not have thought to have called you and asked you.
Right.
And I think that so many of us are waiting for somebody to see that we have this potential or to see that we can create something. And the truth is, like, and I just mean this so strongly, even the people that love you the most have no idea what your potential is.
Right.
They are extremely unlikely to stop you on the street and pull you out like it's a modeling opportunity and you're 14 years old. It's not going to happen. You have to ask and you have to make that opportunity happen.
These opportunities. Yeah, absolutely. And people don't know what we want. You know what I mean? Like, who would even know that? You wouldn't even know that I would want to do that it meant something to me. So like, that's where, like, if we can put that out there to people, then people know where they are, or what it is we're wanting. Once you put it out there, there's the likelihood of it happening is so much greater. When it's just in our own heart and in our own mind, you know, like, you're the only one responsible for manifesting that. And it is this whole community that helps make things happen.
Yeah, I love that. And it's such a perfect place to finish. So last words of wisdom from you, Jennifer Earnest. And before we go, can you tell everybody, and I'll make sure that we put it in our comments for anybody that comes later, where they can go if they live in North Florida and maybe beyond, where they can go to get involved in all of these incredible things, to buy your gelato, to get more from you.
Absolutely. So if you are interested in either our meal delivery or our virtual cooking classes, which you can live anywhere to engage in our virtual cooking classes, you can find us on Instagram at Chef's Garden Events. You can find us on Facebook at Chef's Garden Catering. And I would also love for people to follow me. And I'm on Instagram at Jen_Earnest, JEN_Earnest.
Yay. All right. So as we wrap up, can I ask you just the final word? What are your final words of wisdom on silver linings at this time?
I really think that you got to look for your silver linings. You know, I mean, like, I think it comes back to perspective. You find your silver linings. And once your mind starts looking for silver linings, more of them appear, you know, so that is, I was doing this post on gelato and that's where I realized, oh my gosh, I've always wanted this gelato to happen. So it is happening. So once we start shifting our perspective, we start searching for what our silver linings are instead of what isn't the silver lining of the situation, more of them will start appearing for us.
So it's such a beautiful way to finish. And I want to say, please go and connect with Jen in all the different ways she just shared, and I'll make sure we share them again so you can just click on them. But then also stay tuned, because she and I are planning some fun stuff that you will have the opportunity to be a part of in our community as well. And I'm just so glad to have had you here, Jen. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you to everybody who joined us live. I know we always have tons of people that watch later. So if you are watching this later and you have specific questions, please feel free to drop them in if it's Facebook Live, or email them over to us. And if it's for Jen or I, make sure you tag us so we know and actually come and answer them.
Thanks, everybody. It was great to virtually connect with y'all.
Yay. Bye, guys. Thank you so much.